Hi everyone, I'm happy that you're watching. This is lesson 2, 4.2, the human reproductive system. And in this video, we're going to talk about the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. Page 91 in your textbook. Okay, so let's start with the male reproductive system. Here you see a picture. It's the same picture as in your book, and I'm going to discuss all the different parts and how they work and why they work the way they work. So let's talk about the first part. Here you see the word testes, and here you see the word testis. And you might think there's a typo, but that's not the case because testis is the singular and testes is the plural. So one testis, two testes, right? Okay. So the testes are found in the scrotum, and the scrotum is a skin, a sac of skin that hangs outside the male's body, and inside it hang the two testes. The reason why the testes hang outside of the male's body is because of temperature. Sperm cells are made in the testes, and they need to be able to swim, and they prefer a lower temperature than the actual body temperature. Now, the actual body temperature is about 37 degrees. That's too hot for them. So they hang outside the body where it's several degrees lower, which is better for development and activity of sperm cells. So I said the sperm cells are produced in the testes in what's called seminiferous tubules. Now you don't really have to know this word, but it's just to be, complete. I'm telling you this word. What's important, though, is that you know that once the sperm cells are made, and they're made for a very long time, all the time, throughout the day, starting from puberty and ending at advanced age, so like 80, 85 years old. Pretty different from females, but we'll talk about that later. But once the sperm cells are made, they're stored somewhere, and that is in this area called the epididymis. The epididymis is on top of the testes. Now, sperm cells, once they are in the epididymis, have to come out of the man's body, and so you might think they go directly out because that's really close. That's not the case. Sperm cells by themselves are not capable of fertilizing an egg cell until they can swim towards it. And in order to swim towards the egg cell, they need fluids. And the fluids, the places where fluids are made, is inside the body at different places. So the sperm cells have to travel up this tube to pick up that fluid. And the fluid is made in various areas. You can see them here, seminal vesicles, and here very complicated word, bulbourethral gland. Very famous one, which is the one that you really have to remember, the prostate gland. So in order to travel to all of these glands and pick up fluid, the sperm cells travel from the epididymis through the sperm duct. And the sperm duct goes all the way over the bladder, through the prostate, and then out of the penis. Now, once they are here, this part is not called the sperm duct anymore. This part is called the urethra. And this is a very special part because not only sperm cells go through here, but urine can go through here as well. From the bladder, you can see that here, but not at the same time as sperm cells. Now, right here on top, you see this purple stuff that is called erectile tissue. Erectile tissue is like spongy tissue, and what it does, it fills up with blood. And then the blood stays there and cannot return, so the penis becomes erect. And once there's an ejaculation and the sperm cells come out, then the blood can go back and the erection is gone. Just a very important remark, because I don't really want to be having any confusion here. And also there was a question, what is sperm and what are sperm cells? Well, those two things are very different. Sperm is another word for semen. And actually what comes out of the penis is not sperm cells, it's semen. So what are we talking about? Well, this is a sperm cell, But sperm cells obviously have to swim, so they have to swim in fluid, and the fluid comes from different areas, which you can see here, and we already talked about that. Well, sperm is sperm cells plus those fluids, and together you call that sperm, or you can call it semen. So those are two different things. By the way, if you look at the sperm cell, you might think it's not really a cell. You think it's maybe many different cells together to form this incredibly complicated organism, but that's not the case. It's really a cell. And the cell has cytoplasm. It has a nucleus with DNA that has to be transported to the egg cell of the female. It has mitochondria for picking up and making energy, and then it has this tail to swim. Okay, so here we have some words. You might want to pause the video right now and see if you can match the words over here, the keywords, to the different sentences that you see here. If you understood what I was just talking about, you can do this. Now, please pause the video, because after this, I'm going to tell you the answer. Okay, so what are the answers? This one, these secrete a liquid to add to the sperm. The sperm and liquid together is called semen. Well, those are the glands. This skin surrounds the testicles. That is the scrotum. The sperm is produced here. That is the testicle, another word for testes. The sperm travels up this tube from the testicles. Well, that would be the sperm duct. And this joins to the sperm duct. Semen and urine leave the penis through this. That's the urethra. Did you get everything? Wonderful. So we move on to the female reproductive system. Now, everything about the female reproductive system is complex because it is for reproduction, for making egg cells, and also for developing a baby and having it be born. So it's 9 months of pregnancy. It's a very complex system, and all of the parts are actually inside of the female's body. So let's talk about it. First of all, let's talk about ovaries. Now here you can see this round area here and another round area, and from the side view you see it here, and if you can't really see it, look in your book. This is the same picture. Those ovaries are just like the testes in a male. Ovaries produce egg cells. Testes produce sperm cells. Now, the difference is though that egg cells are produced from puberty, but only up to about 55 years of age when there's menopause. So there's already a big difference between males and females, where males can produce sperm cells almost all their lives. Also, where males are concerned, there are millions of sperm cells in one ejaculation. And there's millions of sperm cells being made all the time. But in a female, there's only one egg cell actually that is developed every month starting from puberty. That doesn't mean there's only one egg cell made. In fact, egg cells over here are not made when puberty starts. Girls are already born with all of their egg cells in there, only they're not ripened, they're not mature. And then starting from puberty, one egg cell each month is matured, develops, and that egg cell then jumps into this tube over here. And from the side you can see here, this is the ovary, and it jumps into this tube here. Or from the other side, and it jumps to this tube. That tube is called the oviduct. When the egg cell therefore jumps into the oviduct, it stays there for a very short period of time, 2 days almost, and that is where the egg is fertilized. Now, maybe some of you think that eggs are fertilized in the uterus, the baarmoeder, but that is not the case. Please remember, egg cells are fertilized right inside these tubes, which is the oviduct. Okay? Sometimes they're called the fallopian tubes, another word for the same thing. Now, egg cells cannot travel. They cannot move. They don't have tails. So inside here, inside these oviducts, there are little cilia cells, like fingers. You might remember the story about cilia inside the windpipe, the trachea, where they sweep up the mucus. Well, those types of cells, they look like little hairs, but they're not. They're actually cells. They sweep the egg cell towards the uterus. So here's fertilization, and then the fertilized egg cell is swept to the uterus. Now, the uterus, there's a typo in here. It's supposed to be an E. The uterus is the place where the egg then develops. So this is the uterus looking from the side. And this is a space, an open space that you can see here as well. And this is the bladder. So make sure you see the differences. The uterus is on top of the bladder. Pregnant women can tell you that when they're very, very pregnant, the baby's weight actually presses on that bladder a lot. Okay, let's move on. Now, here we have the area over here, which is the beginning of the uterus, which you can see over here as well. This is called the cervix. This is the bottom opening of the uterus. This is where the baby can come out, and out of this tube, this is the vagina. So the vagina is actually a tube, as you can see here. Maybe you've heard about cervical cancer and vaccines. Well, that has to do with the cervix. Now, the vagina is the birth canal. Actually, it looks like a canal. The baby travels through here. And then the vulva is the opening right here to the outside. So this is the final area where the baby comes out. Also, there are inner and outer labia. Okay, 2 inner labia, 2 outer labia. 2 on each side. So 1 inner labia on the left, 1 inner labia on the right, and so forth. En dat zijn schaamlippen in het Nederlands. So labia is a Latin word. There's also the clitoris. The clitoris is over here on this side, and this is a part with a lot of nerve endings located between the labia. And here is the urethra where urine comes out. Okay, just like with the male reproductive system, we now have a little part where you can check your understanding. So please pause the video and I will talk about the answers. Okay, so the answers. This holds the fetus in place if the egg has been fertilized. It is a muscle that closes the top of the vagina. Now, this last sentence is the important part. That's the cervix. This is the tube that the egg travels down to get to the womb. Fertilization usually happens here. So we talk about the fallopian tube, or in other words, the oviduct. These release the egg cells. That is the ovary. This is a muscular tube that opens to the outside of the body. That's the vagina. And this is where the fertilized egg would implant and develop into a fetus. That is called the womb or uterus. Those are 2 words meaning the same thing, baarmoeder. An egg cell is another word for ovum. Sometimes you hear ovum. Sounds like ovary, but it's an egg cell. Okay, if you got this right, you understood what I was just talking about in the previous minutes. Well done. Okay, so here is another thing that we can try to see if we understood the whole entire section 4.2. So pause the video again and I'll get back with you if you pause it. Okay, so check your answers, please. Look at all the different colors and you will see if you got the right answers. Pause it to check it. Right, next lesson is going to be hormones in puberty. Make sure you look at the study planner to see what assignments you need to do, and I'll see you next time. Bye!